Alright guys, I'm going to do a real quick video here because of time constraints, but I have a piece of Federal 223. It's been tumbled and cleaned and everything. It's not terribly clean, and I'm going to skip some steps here anyway, but just to show you how this can be done, I'm going to turn this into a piece of TCM brass. I have one of these $30 Drill Master cutoff saws. It's got a really fine little blade, kind of almost like using a bandsaw, and it's got this little Kydex guide that I built that will hold it up and down, left and right centered, and then also has a stop on it at a particular distance, and I'll show you what that distance is based on my trial and error. I apologize for the camera angles and things like that because it's only me. I got one hand, and right now I'm holding the phone with my chin on my knee here, so just bear with me. Let me show you this little guy. So this is going to cut this off. And you will see that it actually does a really good job of cutting it off very nice and square, especially compared to when I was trying to use pipe cutters and such. What I'll do is I'll use like one of these little RCBS trim or deburring chamfer type tools, and all I'm going to do is just literally like once or twice around, just get rid of the little sharp guys on there so it doesn't want to play nasty in my dies. Normally I'll throw this right into the tumbler and make sure it gets cleaned out real nice, but just for comparison purposes here, you zero out my caliper here. I think, and yeah, this one's actually, just a second here, sorry about the crappy camera action. This one comes out at about 106.9. You know, 106.8 is one of the ones I've been working with. Really, it's not going to matter a terrible amount because I'm going to end up trimming them back anyway. I've been going a little bit longer than shorter just because depending on my annealing, sometimes they get a little bit loud or a little bit shorter. They tend to shrink a little with annealing. I'm using MAP gas. So instead of propane, I'm using MAP gas. Some of my bottleneck reloading buddies say that that's probably a better idea just because it will tend to heat it up quickly and not allow it to work its way up the shoulder quite as fast. So all I'm going to do is stick it in here. I just really want to pretty much focus on the tip. Let it change the color just a little bit. If it turns red, it's probably too much. And really, that's about it. That's as far as I'm going to take that. So you can stick it in a drill, chuck it up, stick it in there so it gets nice and even or everything. But literally, I just did like 400 of these, so I'm not in the mood to be playing that game. Right now, this is hot as shit, so don't grab a hold of it. So normally I would let these cool in like a Pyrex dish. I'd keep like a, you can see the oil burning right off of it. Normally I would have these in like a Pyrex dish below where I would just, you know, anneal, drop, and I usually don't even spend that much heat on these. You don't want it to creep up in here or else you can get a case rupture if it softens the brass up. This thing is so hot right now I can barely touch it, but for the good of YouTube and my people, I'm going to probably burn myself and stick it in my press anyway. So ready, set. Holy shit, that was hot. Alright, let's try that again. Okay, so it's in my press. My die is set. Whoa, what's going on? Alright, my die is set exactly where it would be as if I had once fire brass. So I don't have any weird changes going on. I don't have any, I haven't adjusted anything. All I'm going to do is run it through my die just as if I was running regular brass through. One good, nice, solid punch down. I usually give it a double one just for good measure. And when I pull this thing out, it's nice and cool now. You can see that the brass is nice and uniform. You can see that the edges are a little bit, they're not perfect or anything, but that doesn't matter because I'm going to take an RCBS trimmer chamfer deburr tool and I'm going to shorten these down to the factory length. You do not want these to be oversized length. In fact, let me grab a TCM quick. Hold on one second. Sorry for the shitty camera here. Alright. So I got a TCM here. And I'm just going to simply drop this empty piece of brass in the chamber. And anybody who's setting up for reloading, this is a good test before you start wasting your time jamming bullets in there. This thing should sit flush, a lot more flush than it does with the barrel. It should be more to the right. This right here, that's not a good situation, because that means you're going to jam the brass into the lead or into the beginning of the barrel, where the barrel throat opens up, and that can build overpressure. So I'm going to get that out of there. So there's my little round. It's ready to go. And essentially, I am going to now take this round and I'm going to trim it back. Just for giggles here, we'll see what it mics in at. And again, this is horrible. I'm just jumping around my basement here. But you can see that now it actually has shrunk to a 1049.5. So every time you do one of these steps, it kind of tends to shrink a little bit, and the annealing is the reason for that. But I have found out that if you don't anneal it, that's where you run into problems. So here's another piece of Lake City. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing with this Lake City brass. So we're going to cut her off. These little saws are awesome for 30 bucks. I highly recommend them. I am going to just do a quick deburr here, just so there's nothing funky on there. Now I'm going to stick this one in here without annealing it, just to show you probably what will happen. Chances are, since it's on camera, everything will work just fine. Let me pull it out here. Alright, well, it worked close to just fine. But if you look up here, you can see it kind of jacked up the top of the round there. It's not in good shape. It's got that stress line right down the middle there, sort of. This one will probably split. I would not use this round. See that stress line right there? So you can see how much of a difference annealing makes. And it's going to be the difference between splitting a case and putting too much stress trying to make a case that's 223 distance and shorten it down to a .22, you know, taking this big neck and shrinking it down here. So annealing is very, very important. Don't over anneal, or else you'll weaken the structure in the rear of the case. But annealing's a good thing. Experiment with it a little bit. Don't get too crazy though. But you can definitely see the difference between that and the one that we did anneal, which does not have any of those stress marks on it because it was flexible. And now it may not look that great on camera, but it came out just fine. And then one last thing, like I said, I'm going to true up that cut on the top. You can see there's a little bit of stress there, but that won't matter because my trimmer will be cutting them down just a little bit farther than that line anyway. But I've been firing these. They do seem to work well. This one's a piece of Hornady brass, or no, I'm sorry, this is Federal, but I've tried Federal, Lake City, Hornady, PPU, whatever you can find pretty much, and it does work. The Armscore branded brass seems to be stronger, seems to work better, probably because it's formed that way from the factory. That's what I use in all my hotter loads. These loads I only shoot my just under 1,700 feet per second loads, like 10.1, 10.2 grains of H110, something like that. But they still give you a nice big flash, nice bang, highly accurate. The best part about that is the brass lays where you drop it. So you can see, like, this is what I just did, just, you know, earlier yesterday. These were all 223s yesterday, and now they're 22 TCMs, and I have to take them and run them all at in one huge batch to trim them down and cut them and true them up. But in order to get to that stage, I've wrecked a lot of brass. In fact, I mean, I probably have, I don't even know where they all got to. Maybe I threw them out. I don't know. I have a whole box of ones that I've wrecked trying to get to this point. So annealing's the key. be safe, be careful. This is for informational purposes only. And if you want to save yourself a lot of time and aggravation and not have to go through all that stuff, just buy the factory rounds, because the factory rounds, quite honestly, are awesome. They're perfect. The brass that comes back is great, and it can be done, and I'm one of those people that if it can be done, I'm going to try it. So I don't know. We'll see how brass life testing goes next.